Hello again. I'm going to talk today about part 2 of reception in astrology.
God of hosts, and Lord of hosts, God of love.
It is the job of the artist
The true nature of God.
to judge the relationships that the planets exhibit with each other. Reception is a relationship that the Lord of the host has chosen for light, dignity, and quality of light that the planets are reflecting towards the earth. After all, astrology is the study of the planet's light quality as seen from the earth. That is, again, as seen from the earth. It is a geocentric point of view. The ever-changing positions of the planets are seen from the Earth as if they were mirrors in the sky, bouncing light reflections from one end of the galaxy toward the other. The light that is seen from the planets of the cosmos is a light quality that is very different from each other and is ever-changing. Mirrors in the sky as a satellite can only reflect the sun's light. Planets, however, operate quite differently than just a reflection of the sun. It is as if the planets are just energized by the sun's light, but reflect sunlight in different tones in a language too ancient for any to understand. Just like a man can only measure electricity, but cannot say in words what it is, this light reflected from each of the planets is quantified by a system called dignity. This system was pretty much perfected in the Hellenistic era. Dignity is man's attempt to measure the quality of the reflection of light that is ever-changing and never the same at any one given time. Astronomy is a system of mathematics that only uses the physical attributes of the planets and uses celestial mechanics to track their movement. Astronomy assigns a number to all of the stars and categorizes them in a library-like system of ordinances. Astrology works more off of observation of the quality of light, ever-changing by the consistency of the planetary movement and the shadows that are cast upon it. Reception is a planetary relationship as such. It is important to scrutinize each of the planets to properly determine the outcome of the relationship that each planet will have toward one another. It is a relationship. It is not necessarily one of an equal discretion. Nonetheless, each of the two planets relating to one another play important, albeit different roles. The first role, as far as reception is, goes toward the receiving planet. The planet that receives another into its dignities, or light quality, has the role of a host. Owning the part of the sky, or the planet most capable of reflecting the brightest light in a direction of the sky as viewed from the Earth, the host planet is the strongest in its part of the sky and is said to own that part of the sky or zodiac. Of course, a planet cannot own anything. However, it is an ancient classification and is based on where the dignity of light quality of a particular planet is the greatest as seen from the Earth, a geocentric point of view. Again, only as seen from the Earth, not seen from using the sun as the center point. That is heliocentric. This host planet must attend to its guest planet, any other 6 celestial bodies that have wandered into the area of the sky that is said to be owned by the host planet, and the host planet will take responsibility for the well-being of the guest planet. This is the basics of reception. How well the host planet will be able to take care of its guest will be determined by the host planet's placement, dignity, and nature of the quantization called dignity, classified a long time ago. The central idea is that the wandering planets share in their host planet's fortune or poverty, in the weakness, shadowy side, or the prompt brightness of the host planet that is said to own that part of the sky. So a host planet that shines bright in that part of the sky in which it currently resides has a lot that can give a lot. On the other hand, a host planet that is currently showing its shadowy, dark side of its phase lacks light, thus is not able to provide as richly. Therefore, a planet with this attribute may even end up harming its host planet. If it is weak in its dignity, by not being able to muster up the resources of light dignity to bring enough of the light energy being pushed to them to make the passage of light possible for an event or an outcome to come to pass. After all, nothing is seen without light shining or reflecting upon it. The second role of the planetary reception goes to the planet being received, and this planet takes on the role of a guest. We typically think of guests as individuals who must be well behaved, or they will be in danger of being asked to leave. But this is not the case with planets, as their host planet cannot evict them. This means that the host planets are often put upon by their guest, who may behave or act badly by signifying bad or difficult things of a future event that is queried in horary astrology. Thus, the guest planet is not well received by the host planet in this instance, and will tend to be the boss or be in charge of the agenda, for the host planet is too weak in dignity and cannot control the matter that is to become or could be the destiny for the native, for the person whose natal chart is being read. Reception is how the planets communicate amongst themselves. As one can see, it is very involved, just like the politics of a board meeting at a large corporation. Now, the difference of this blog is that the CEO is the lord of all the host and communicates to them all as they, the members of the board meeting or the planets, communicate to the CEO or the lord of the host. This fact is written in the books that were started as scrolls and later bound and stitched together, stating the history of the philosophy of humankind. The only stories that have survived, anyway, is what we call the Bible. The quality of light dignity is dependent upon the position of the planet as viewed from the Earth. Each planet goes through phases of fully lit and gibbous to shadows on most of the celestial body in the crescent or the new phase, just as the moon's phases are seen from the Earth. It has long been theorized the more that a planet is in its own light, as seen from the Earth, the more of the positive angel-like quality of the personality of the native, or the individual of the birth. If it shows up in a gibbous phase, as seen from the Earth in one's natal chart, as opposed to a planet seen in its crescent phase, which has a lot of shadows, which will bring out the more shadowy, negative, dev-like qualities of the planet for the personality. All planets go through their phases, but all of us know the most famous of these phases, the moon phase. This slide shows Venus's phases. Note that the phases of Venus, however, different but similar to the phases of the moon. The biggest difference is that Venus and Mercury in their phases travel around the sun, and I have long tried to place these phases of the planets in their own light, when fully lit in the sky, into the dignity tables of the ancient Egyptian or the Hellenistic philosophers like Dorotheus, Ptolemy, Aristotle, and Pythagoras. How did these scholars of antiquity see the planets from the geocentric or Earth view and assigned a placement of ownership to the host planet is still a question in my mind. I have not read in any known philosophy anywhere of the theory behind the placements of these dignity tables, but they, however, today stand as the rule of the many disciplines of astrology. However, you can follow this blog, and we will try to figure out this together in future blogs. I will attempt to show this theory as the ancients did it, from viewing the planets with a footing on the Earth, or a geocentric point of view. The good qualities of Venus were thought of as art in the eyes of the beholder, affection, a feeling of love and popularity. The shadowy, devilish side of Venus were a person that was more of the selfish nature, like bad taste or oversex, over-expenditure on wasteful things, and other traits of this nature. The most notorious of the shadowy darkness was that of the shadowy sides of Saturn. This side seen here is a rare photo of a satellite passing through the shadow of Saturn. However, when the dark side of Saturn was seen from the Earth, when one was born, it could exhibit signs and qualities of illness and or poverty. How were the planets characterized in the tables of dignity remain a mystery to me, because a lot of philosophy books were banned or burned by invading, reveling forces. For this belief or that, planet worship was really ridiculed and warned against. However, the original teachings of the cosmos was forgotten and were originally learned through the word of mouth and passed down to priests in the temples. Those who love to read about astrology, a lot of the records were destroyed in the holy wars in world history, or the stories of the Bible. Much of the records are not remembered or just glazed over, and readily many theologians slant their interpretation of the many allegories and metaphors of the history of the cosmos. And those of antiquity had teachers and prophets to teach this reception to those capable of learning it. Thus came the name of our Lord Almighty of Abraham, Jacob, and Moses, calling himself to the prophets, thy Lord of thy host, in the Old Testament of the Bible. These lessons were written in symbols of early mankind and passed down through the teachings of what was called by many names, the English name being the mysteries, and then it was passed to those that were capable to learn this knowledge of reception that were pretty much pledges in today's terminology to the priesthood. For example, Moses was learned in the ways of the Egyptian, a statement in the book of Hebrews and echoed in Acts 7:12. In the chapters of Isaiah, the Lord of the hosts reveals the prophecy of a new world and the one who would deliver the message to the new world that would include now the Gentiles and all of those considered maundering filth, that the Lord welcomes all now, not just the worshiping Hebrew. This was a message for the entire world. The Lord of the hosts was the name. Heavenly hosts is still remembered in the hymns, too old for even the leaders of the church to date them today. The history of the cosmos has been tempered down for generations for fear of planetary worship and considered for the longest time heresy. And many deaths have resulted from merely following the planets that we know are guided by the Lord of the host. However, for the rest of you who have stayed with me in this blog for this long, I will reveal my theory on how the tables of dignity must have been put together. The phases of the light reception that I showed earlier was noticed from the Earth's view of the stars and through many centuries and millennia of looking into the night sky. Some of the more philosophical thinking of the tribes of antiquity watched as the phases of the planets burned bright and then gradually faded into a shadow that was not visible to trace. Venus and Mercury have similar phases that one would be able to see. The brighter gibbous and full phases were praised and awed. However, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn also passed on the other side of the Earth, the furthest away from the Sun, creating different phases to sextile and trine aspects to the Sun. The half phases of the planets, half lit and half shadowed, were not as auspicious in its light, and once the new phases of these planets went to the other side of the Sun, where NASA now claims that radio waves and communication are intercepted, or reception communication was lost by roving satellites there, thus the light dignity of these planets vanished as well in ancient times, and they were not seen from the point of view of the ancients. And thus, the new phases or conjunctions with Mars and Saturn took on different meanings. These meanings must have been noted in the notebooks of the philosophers, as the times in which they were living dictated either fortune or poverty of the times of the new phases of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The stars in the firmament were fixed in the constellations behind the planets and were noted as these phases of planets went in and out in their glory through the constellations.
On humanity, holy in your eyes so that you can see, holy in your mind so that you can be free. Who can light up all of the hell? God